Hello, beautiful moms and entrepreneurs. My name is Charisse Walker, and I'm your host of the Unbreakable Mompreneurs podcast. This is a place where we come together to learn, grow, and inspire. So sit back, relax, and let's get started. Hello, Unbreakable Mompreneurs. All right, here's my question for you. Do you suffer from the imposter syndrome, thinking that you're not good enough, or you don't deserve it, or why are people listening to you? Or you're a leader and you're thinking, how do I become a better leader? Well, today is your day, because I have Jenn Donahue in the room, and we are going to talk about that and a whole lot more. So I'm your host, Charisse Walker, and without further ado, Jenn, would you like to introduce yourself to our audience?
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I will tell you that I have a really varied background. I was in the United States Navy and I'm a combat veteran. After 27 years, I served in Iraq, I served in Afghanistan. And then whenever I got back from Afghanistan, I decided to open up my own engineering firm. So I am an entrepreneur, but I am also a speaker, an author, and a coach.
I love that. And I don't think you went into enough detail, because when I was reading your history, let's talk about this is the time to brag, right? Because your accomplishments are incredible. And especially, let's talk women, sometimes we don't like to talk about ourselves, but when you are in a majority male dominated industry, which the military, let's be honest, it is, you were in charge of a lot of people. So do you want to go into a little more about what you did?
I will. I'm an engineer. I'm like an engineer's engineer. I've been engineering since I was a little girl. And whenever I went into the Navy, it was only 9% women. In fact, I was one of the very first females into the construction battalions, because they've been men since 1942, whenever they were originally developed. But in the mid 90s, they started to let women into the battalion. So I was really only the third female officer that they had ever seen. And they didn't quite know what to do with me. And over the next 20 plus years, it was still the same way, where we were only 9% women.
Mhm.
I was the very first female commanding officer of a battalion. They didn't quite know what to do with me either. They'd never had a female running a battalion. And then I finally was able to retire as a Commodore. So I was in charge of 1,800 personnel, deployed all over the world, but again, still only 9% women. So it's a very, very male dominated type of industry. And you find out how to work around that. And a lot of times, because they don't know what to do with you, it's your job to pave the way and show like how great we can be. We're different. A lot of times we are very empathetic. We like to listen. We do things differently than men. And a lot of times that's our superpower. And that's what really draws people to us.
That is so true. And so let's talk about that, because I thought I was going to go to imposter syndrome right now, but let's talk about leadership, right? Because 1,500 people, and especially male, and in the military, where they're like, I don't want to be taking orders from this woman, right? Or this girl. And so how did you get the respect of 1,800 people?
Well, it didn't start on day one. I will tell you that. Really started small. The first team that I was ever in charge of was just 4 people.
Mhm.
And I had to come in and basically show that I was meant for the job. The imposter syndrome starts to come into this a little bit as well, when you start to look around and think, I don't look like any of these people. And how did I get here? And will they even listen to me? All of that starts to come up. And the thing is that you have to realize that we have some inherent strengths that we need to tap into. And whenever I just realized that, hey, you know what? I'm a darn good engineer. Sorry, I'm trying not to cuss, 27 years in the military. It's one of those things.
Thank you.
But, I'm a darn good engineer. And you know what? I think I can lead these people really well. And so you come in with that confidence, even if it's a false confidence, and you say, I can do this. And you believe in yourself, and you show that you care for your team. And then all of a sudden they realize, hey, wait a minute, she really does have our best interests in mind. Yeah, let's follow her. Let's see what happens. And then I was in charge of 18 people, all men. But then I realized I need to be myself, because if I'm trying to be somebody else, they can see right through me. But whenever I was just myself, they realized, oh, yeah, she is out for our best interest. She is trying to make us better. She is trying to make us the best team that we have. And they got excited about that. And then it started to grow. And as a person, you start to mature. And And then you can take on bigger and bigger and bigger groups. Being in charge of 1,800 people, I didn't get a chance to know all of them, but I wanted all of their best interests at heart. And so I would go out and try to meet as many of them as I could and try to be as personable as I could. And I think that's one of the things that really set me apart from other leaders is that I wasn't just up there saying, I'm the leader, this is what you're going to do, and you're going to follow what I have to say. No, it was like, hey, this is a team. Let's all get together. Let's figure out how we can make this unit the best that we can. And I think by going out and just being yourself, that's what I found was the most successful for me. Because whenever I tried to be somebody else, it didn't feel good. It was uncomfortable. People saw right through me. It was just a big mess.
And authenticity is something that really is true, because if people can tell that you really do mean well, then that's really what matters. And I think that you failed to say that you might have been in charge of 1,800 people, but you had to convince, I don't like that word, but you had to prove, I don't like that word either, so I'll come up with a different one or you can help me. But the leaders above that put you in that role. And so it wasn't just the people that were beneath you, but also the people that were above you that you had to influence for the better. And so that's the part that if you are yourself and you are genuine and you have other people's interests at heart, not the fact that you want to become the leader, it really does show through. And no matter what gender you are, you deserve the spot and you earn that spot. So kudos to you.
Oh, thanks. And I totally agree. I looked at some of my counterparts and they were like, oh, I want to be the next department head. Oh, I want to be the next company commander. Oh, and they had this like whole thing all mapped out before them. That was like, this is what I want to do next. This is what I want to do next. And they weren't concentrating on where they were at that moment.
Yeah.
And because I was trying to make whatever unit I was like the best that I could, focusing more downward in all of that, that's what the leadership really started to notice. It's like, hey, this department is doing really, really well, and these others, they aren't. And so by concentrating on what I was doing and where I was getting noticed. And I'm a little bit competitive. And so I was just trying, it's like, I just want to beat everybody else. I want to have the best department out there. And I think that's what it was all about.
Yeah, I agree. Totally agree. So, what are some of the common challenges that you faced or that leaders face today?
We are at the point where people just want to be seen. They want to be heard. They want to be acknowledged for the contributions that they're doing. And over the last several years, for the last several decades, actually, it's been more about you're the team, you're going to do this, and you really look at it as everybody is the same and we just have to succeed. And what's challenging right now is that so many people, they don't want that anymore. They just don't want to be this monogamous, no, that's not the right term, but this team that all looks the same. And
Cookie cutter.
it's like not monogamous, that's different. That's like we're not dating other teams. We need to look at individuals and what they can contribute to the vision that they have. And that's something that I've noticed that a lot of leaders are having a problem with is really recognizing the individual talents that their personnel have. They have this big goal in mind, but they don't know how to utilize their people well enough and use their own strengths in order to get there. So that's one of the things that I've noticed a lot of is just this blanket statement that everybody's the same and everybody needs to achieve the same thing and everybody needs to do the same work. That's not working anymore.
Yeah. And I think the other thing too is people are afraid of having people below them outshine them. And like the true leader wants them to become better than them, right? That they can succeed. And yeah, if you can do better, great. Because you're developing these people to help you. And as somebody that I know very, very well, it's so funny. I'm a sociologist at heart, so I love to sit in a room and watch him because he cannot focus. He's so scatterbrained. But this man has built an empire that is like billions, multiple billions, and he just keeps putting people in specific strategic spots, and then they take it and run, and then his income continues to explode. And he's not doing it, right? These other people are. And so
That's
it's
awesome.
okay if people are better than you because you can't be good at everything.
That's wonderful. That is an absolutely fantastic story. And it gets to the heart of like what I truly believe.
Mhm.
It's like find those people that have this passion that they're really good at something and then let them go.
Yeah.
Release the hounds. Let them go be at the best that they can be for you. As a leader, you should be excited about this. Don't start thinking like, oh, this person is better than me. You need to squash it. No, no, do the opposite. Let them shine because that's going to be better for the entire team. It's going to be better for the entire company. I
Mhm.
mean, that's fantastic. And it's so great to hear these case studies that like, yes, this is working.
Yeah, it is. However, then you have this imposter syndrome in the background, right?
Boy,
And so how do you overcome that? Thinking, oh my gosh, if they outshine me, then I'm not going to have my job anymore, or I don't deserve my job. So how do you combat that?
I always go back to when I start to have imposter syndrome, is I had to start looking internally and trying to figure out where those feelings are coming from.
Mhm.
And then the way that I start to combat that is I start to list out all the different accolades that I've ever had in my entire life. You might not be good at that, but you're probably really good at something else.
Mhm.
And when you start to look at all of those different accolades that you ever had, I don't care if you won the fourth grade science fair, realize that there's something that helped you do that. Maybe you were inquisitive. Maybe you're creative. Maybe you're good at communication. Maybe you're smarter than what you really want to believe.
Mhm.
So when you start to go through and you have imposter syndrome, my first train of thought is just write down all of your accolades and then think about how you got there.
I love that.
Those hows are your inherent strengths. And you need to really look at that piece of paper that you're writing things down on and realize, like, no, and own it.
Mhm.
And you know what? Like you said, that person who's shining in this other area, hey man, let them shine because you know what? That's what they're good at. You're probably really good at something else. And you need to realize that, you know what? That's not what I'm good at. This is where I am, and this is where I can shine myself.
That's great. So there's some words that you use because you're writing a book, right? Or
Yes,
it's in the process, it'll come out next year. What is it called?
becoming the warrior.
Okay. And will you talk about that a little?
Absolutely.
Mhm.
This is something that I've been working on for several years. And I take stories from other people. So part of it is my life and how I came up with the warrior framework to get over our imposter syndrome and our fear of failure, our fear of success, all those self-doubts. But it's also all of these other stories from other people, who have overcome their own tragedies, their own missteps, and how they got better, basically using the same type of framework, but maybe in just another way.
Yeah.
And so, what I really talk about is perceiving these little voices that are in our head. And so, I call them the mean little voice and the sneaky little bastard. They're the ones that are there that are whispering in your ear that you're not good enough, you're not ready, everybody's going to think that you're a fraud. Oh, maybe we should do spreadsheets instead of calling that client because we're afraid they're going to tell us no. All of those little voices that are in our head. And it's about really understanding and perceiving those voices and separating them out to see what's rational and what's irrational. And then what I call my inner warrior, because we have these other voices, we also have another little voice that's in us. And it's that one that says, I can. I
Mhm.
want to do this. I think I can do this. And it's about strengthening that. And it's about really understanding those achievements. It's about understanding our strengths. And it's really about finding our why. Why do we want to do this? And I have all these exercises in the books that we can strengthen that voice. So when we hear these other little nasty little voices that are in our heads, we have a way to counteract those. We can combat those and we can basically take those mean little voices. We're probably never ever going to get rid of them because a lot of times we have those when maybe we're uncomfortable or maybe when we're trying something new or we're growing. We're getting out of our little box and trying something. But then we have this other voice that we can strengthen up to say, hey, you know what? Little voices, you need to calm down.
Mhm.
Go sit somewhere else. We got this. And so that's what the book is all about. It's not just understanding the voices, but it's a way that we can counteract the voices so that we can go forward with confidence.
Imposter syndrome was never an issue for me. until a couple of years ago. And then it's become a huge issue. And I think that sometimes when we are meant to do something, which I do believe we're put on this earth for a reason, sometimes multiple reasons, but I think that there's another being that's trying to prevent us from accomplishing it. Put it as you want, I'll call him Satan. And so these thoughts, like as you continue to get closer and closer to where you're supposed to go and what you're supposed to do, these thoughts come into your head. And I have never in my life like had such a fear of launching and taking steps. Like if I want something, I just go do it.
Yeah.
Running a marathon when I hadn't even trained last year, I'm walking. I did it, right? And so it's like, you know what? I put this off long enough. I'm just going to do it. And I did it. Not an issue. Why can't, with this one particular thing, I'm doing a lot of other stuff, but this one particular thing, why won't I launch? Right. And it's because of all these little fears. And so what I've started to do is, okay, every day I'm going to take one baby step forward. And now I look back and I'm like, okay, I think I've gone like 4 miles,
Huh.
20 more to go, 22. But that's the thing is that it really is something that some people don't have to struggle with yet. But I never thought I'd be that person, and I am today. And so this is good advice that your book is very, very needed for many reasons. So thank you for doing that.
Absolutely. And you know what? I'm like you for years. Man, I was a
Yeah.
crazy, brash. I'm going to just do it. Like,
Uh-huh.
don't you tell me no. Don't you tell me I can't do something. I'm going to do it
Yep.
anyway. And
Mhm.
that was me for a long time until I had, it was actually while I was in Afghanistan, I had a time when I basically, my entire being, my sense of self just absolutely broke.
Yeah.
And it's really kind of been ever since then when I had like this just huge defeat that all of a sudden now I'm getting those voices that come up. And it's not all that strange.
Yeah.
I did a recent study that almost 82% of the entire world has had imposter syndrome
Mhm.
from one time to another.
Yeah.
It's not just women, it's men, it's old people, young people, different races, everything. So maybe you don't have imposter syndrome right now,
Yeah.
but just think if 82% of the world, if you're working with a team of 5 people, 4 of those people might have had imposter syndrome from one time to another.
Yeah.
So, as a leader, we need to look for that in our people to see if maybe they're having issues with imposter syndrome and they're not speaking up in meetings and things like that. So, it's something that maybe you don't have, but it's something that you need to be aware of in your people.
Yeah. I love that. That is so true. There's a thing called the unity paradox. Can you tell us what that is?
Yes, we all know that in order to be successful, we have to have the whole team moving in one direction.
Mhm.
And usually we do this if we have a vision, what that vision is, and then we can come together with a unity of purpose so that we can all move forward. Well, if everybody's the same and we're all moving forward, how do we get there?
Mhm.
Especially people want to be seen and they want to be heard and they want to be recognized for their individual contributions.
Mhm.
How do you create unity of purpose out of individualism? And a lot of people say, well, no, we just have to look at everybody the same. They're all one big team and all of that. But I would argue that you have to look at individualism in order to get to a unity of purpose
Mhm.
for the vision to go on to success. The greatest story is when John F. Kennedy went and visited NASA.
Mhm.
This is right before they were trying to get to the moon. And he was going around and he was talking to different people and he found a janitor. And he asked the janitor, what is your job here? And the janitor responded, I'm here to help put a man on the moon. Now think about that. He's a janitor.
Mhm.
How is his contribution helping to put a man on the moon? He's not an engineer, he's not a scientist, he's not a mechanic working on the rockets, he's a janitor. But he understood what he was a part of in the vision. And that's what we need to do is we need to find all of the different people within our organization and they need to understand how their particular contribution goes towards the overall vision. And it's by looking at their individual traits and their strengths
Mhm.
so that we can pull out all of those strengths, pull them together so that we can have a unity of purpose. And so I think that you can only have a unity of purpose if you actually look at individualism.
I love the story, and I think back at all the times that if you can get everybody to believe in the mission, whatever that is, then that's when you have a successful team, that they're all working towards it. Nobody's trying to sabotage. It's
Right.
so interesting because sometimes we want so badly for things to happen, or we want people to make choices, and it doesn't matter what it is. You can have a group or a team of people, but I think that we don't have time to talk about it today, but making sure that everybody is on that board, because like I ran into a friend the other day at the store, and I haven't seen her in several months. And it's hard because I would have at one time called her my best friend, but I've come to realize that anytime I ever hold an event or I do anything or tries to sabotage. And I've realized that as much as I want this person to be my friend, as much as I love this person, I have to take a step back and see all of the actions that really tell otherwise. And I think as a leader, we can fight and fight and fight for somebody, but if they don't want to do that, then you need to learn to say, okay, I need to move on and I need to find somebody else that can do that. And it's hard. It's really hard, especially if it's a close person that, you shared a lot with. But as a leader, making sure that everybody does have that unity paradox is so important. I love that.
And that's really hard to do is, letting people go.
Mhm. Yeah.
I call them the naysayers sometimes. They're the ones that they're just not really there to help you.
Yeah.
And realizing that actually takes a lot of self-awareness to realize this person might be holding me back.
And it's so hard. And that can be in a business because that person has been employed. You've had them as your right hand person for several years, and then you just realize, wait a second, they don't have the best interest at heart.
Yeah.
And as you continue to grow, you got to get the right people on the bus. So it's tough. It's very tough. And the imposter syndrome is going to say, well, you're not ever going to find anybody. Somebody's not going to be good enough, or you don't deserve to have somebody work like that. You're never going to have anyone that is going to be there fighting with you. And that it's so false. It's so false.
We have we're so mean to ourselves sometimes, and we just put ourselves down. It's just one of those things that we just have to realize that, hey, you know what? Let's just go try a tiny little step and move forward. It's like you said, just take all those tiny little small calculated steps.
Yep.
I'll just tell you, I don't believe in leaps of faith. I'll go on record right now. I don't believe in them. They're big, they're scary, and a lot of times they don't work. But if you have those small calculated little steps, like you said, like just take the courage, just take one little step, and you might find that, you might find somebody great.
Yeah.
You just have to put yourself out there.
It's true. It occurred to me because it took me 2 or 3 years to convince this person to let me join his team, because he started his own company and I got my lender license. And then I'm like, hey, I really want to work with you. I want to park my license at you. He's like, I'm not taking anyone on. I'm just taking care of myself right now. And 3 years. And he finally was like, okay, I'm ready. I can take people on now. And as we're talking today, I'm like, this person's become a mentor, but and he's much younger than me, right? So you're like, oh, nobody can, I mean, there's so many things that can go in your head. I just look at it as he's more experienced in this field than I am. I will take
Mhm.
any advice it possibly can. And then I had this idea. I won't share it because I haven't even shared it with him, but it's like, here's my experience here. Here's his experience here. How can we merge that to be even better? Right. And so I think that sometimes things come to you in ways that you don't even expect. Right. Because you're looking for things and you don't see them. But then if you take a step back and you're like, oh, wait a second, here's an opportunity. And being open to those ideas too is good.
Absolutely. Yeah, don't get so in your rabbit hole and this is my plan and that you stop and you just don't look around to see what else is out there.
Yeah.
I like what you said. Just like take a step back, look around. Hey, maybe there's some really great ideas that are out there. And
That
I
other
agree.
people have. And it's okay if it's not your idea.
Right.
Yeah.
We don't have to come up with all our own ideas. There's some really great people out there that have great ideas. Like let's all get in there together and see what we can figure out all together.
I love
It
that.
doesn't have to be just you.
Yep. I love that. Okay. As you have continued to build your business and do what you're doing, what is one piece of advice that you wish that you would have known then that you know now?
I wish somebody would have told me a long time ago to just be myself.
Mhm.
I think that's probably the biggest piece of advice that I finally got. And
Mhm.
after that, everything started to click. Like I said, I was big, I was brash, I was out there just sort of doing everything. Sometimes what I thought people thought that I should do, and so I was doing them.
Yeah.
But whenever I finally was able to just be myself, like all of that pressure went away.
Mhm.
And I have just been so much happier. I've been so much more successful. just by being myself.
Self-love is a true thing. And if you don't have it and you're not there yet, that's the first thing that you have to discover. And that's when I started writing that book. I had not, like, that wasn't even in the realm of discussions when I was writing that book. And yet now it's the entire first
Yes.
part of the book because I realized how important it was. And when I hired a coach, I hired her for real estate, right? But there's 10 modules. The first 5 modules is all about yourself and mindset and doing things. And I never realized until, I mean, she really did change the course of my life, opened up doors that I can never shut again because I see the other side, right? And self-love and being able to say, you know what, I am who I am, and I'm unapologetic about that. I never want to be rude about it, but if you have an issue, I'm sorry, that's your issue. Because if people really know you, and I've known you for a few minutes, but you truly do have a genuine, caring type personality, and you want what's best for everybody, and you're here on the team to do it. And if somebody takes offense to that or something, then that's on them. And so I love that your authenticity and the self-love that you have has taken you where you have been and where you're going. So congrats.
Thank you. And, I can't do it alone.
Right.
I have mentors, I have friends, I have a support network. You kind of need all of that to really be happy and successful. But I absolutely agree. You know what? I was put on this earth to try to help as many people as I can. And that's what I'm going to do.
I love that. Well, you're doing a good job, and I can't wait for your book to come out. And so it comes out next March, right?
It does.
March of 2026, I should say, because this will be a long podcast. It'll be out in the world forever.
Yes.
We'll be clear about that. Well, Jenn, do you have anything else that you'd like to share with us?
No, but I would like to say thank you. I think that you're doing a fantastic job, and the message that you have, I think that's so great for all of your listeners, and you are really making a difference in the world yourself. So I wanted to say thank you.
Well, thank you. And if our listeners wanted to find you, how would they do that?
You can find me on LinkedIn. So I'm Jenn Donahue, Jenn with 2 N's. And you can also find me on my website, which is jendonahue.com.
Fantastic. Well, thank you, Jenn, for being on.
Thank you.
Unbreakable Mompreneurs, I just want you to hear what Jenn had to say, that you need to love yourself and you need to be genuine, because if you can do those 2 things, then you can launch and you can have the confidence you need to be able to go forward and be the greatest leader that you possibly can. So go out and make it a great day. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Beautiful moms, remember, you are unbreakable. Keep illuminating the world with your strength, pursuing your dreams, and reveling in the splendor of motherhood. This is Charisse Walker, bidding you farewell for now. Stay tuned for more empowering conversations on the next episode of the Unbreakable Mompreneurs podcast. Until then, keep shining bright. Signing off with love, Charisse Walker.